About 2 weeks ago, I was able to speak with James Redfield about this book. In case you guys don't know, this book is called The Celestine Prophecy, and it came out back in the 90s. It broke all kinds of records, #1 New York Times bestseller forever. Well, it has a new edition, and his publicist contacted me and said, "Would you like to talk to James about the new edition of The Celestine Prophecy?" I was like, yes, I do. So anyway, I was able to do that. To say he's amazing is whatever. You can't even say that. He's beyond, okay? And our conversation was just, I walked around on a cloud for like 48 hours. So I can't wait for you guys to hear it. Here is James.
Hi, everyone. I am so excited because I am speaking with author James Redfield, and we are going to be talking about the new addition to the Celestine Prophecy that is coming out September 18th. Thank you so much, James, for talking with me.
Thank you. Thank you. It's nice to be with you.
I've read this new part to it, the new edition, and I was just blown away. And like I said, I read this book back in the 90s. I've reread it during different parts of my life, and this new edition is just amazing.
Well, thank you.
So I'm so happy that I got to read it.
Well, it's it's been a lot of fun because the book Celestine Prophecy was so popular, and it was all pass along. It was all hand to hand, and across the United States, and then all of a sudden it was in 20 countries because people in the United States sent it to their friends in 20 countries. And it was, it was a book that went viral before that's what we called it. And, it's gratifying, especially for me because, this book is not James Redfield's insights of life, while it's a novel and while it's a story of, one person's search for a spiritual meaning, it is I argue that it's a kind of an awakening awareness about spirituality and that's real and that can be proved to oneself inside and it was my thesis as a ex-therapist and someone who's, was long for the psychology, the developments in psychology that went transpersonal, so what they called it. I realized that this was something that was happening out there around the world, already happening. So all that I did with the Celestine Prophecy was to put into words and to tell a story about my experiences and what I felt like was happening to other people in terms of them getting more out of life and having an inspired, sense of self in the world that's essentially a spiritual experience. And so I tried to put that into words and clarify it so that I was describing a social phenomenon that had already begun. So I just thought to describe it, and what happened was that the people, when they read Celestine Prophecy and then later the other books, it was putting something into words that they had already felt and experienced to a degree. So that's why it went viral and around the world. So it was great fun for me to see that happening. And now, as you say, there's two new generations that are embracing the book, because they're reaching the point in life where you ask those questions. Millennials are all passing 30. Some of them are reaching 38, which is a key time when you ask, well, what do I really want out of my life? What do I really want to do? What am I here to? What would most inspire me as a work in the world? So how fun to have the publisher call me and say, oh, by the way, this book, Celestine Prophecy, is surging again. Because of these, two new generations, and everybody really still has always been, has always passed it around. I have a sense that the peak in the 90s has always been there, but now two new generations, which are actually represent the largest population group in the world already, are embracing it. So that was really fun for me, as you can imagine.
Absolutely. You know, I have a son who's 19, and he read it when he was 16. So, you know,
How fun.
like, I really think that I think you're absolutely right. The generations coming up, you know, we started questioning things. I'm 53, almost 54. I started questioning things in the 90s. Okay. So I was in my 30s, 40, you know, going into my 40s. And, but the younger generations, they're doing that now. They're doing it young, and they want answers. Like, you know, and it's amazing to watch, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think they just are, you know, each generation, whether it looks like it or not, is waking up, sooner. You know, there's a spiritual evolution going on in the world. And we can say, oh, things are so much worse than they were 25 years ago. Are they? I would argue that there are some problems in terms of violence and social tensions and social and political tensions. But I would argue that in terms of how many good people there are in the world, you know, people that really want the best for themselves and everybody else, there's more of those people in the world than ever before. And while the maybe the negatives get most of the headlines because we worry about terrorism and we worry about the political divides in the world. But, you know, the rancor around that is a small group. And they get all the headlines, but it's a small group.
Well, okay, so what part blew me away about this new edition that I think everybody is just going to love is how you discuss synchronicity. And as I was reading it, I kept walking around like the grocery store and I was at the mall and, you know, I started looking for more things because I think you're absolutely right. Like the big things we can all talk about, you know, in our life, like our, you know, how we met our spouse, our job. But the little things are the ones that I think if we paid more attention to, we could really see what's going on. And I love that part of the chapter.
That's right. And for your audience, it is I'll just give a definition of synchronicity. And synchronicity is the perception of meaningful coincidences. In other words, things that happen that seem like maybe it's just pure chance, but then you look at it closely and you're listening to two people talk about a subject that maybe you 5 minutes ago had just discovered yourself. Maybe it's a career change you had contemplated, maybe a solution to a problem. And then right in front of you, people are talking about that same kind of solution or that same life.
Okay, so we were talking about synchronicity and the small things going on all around us.
That's right. And
go ahead.
Yeah, so synchronicity is the main thing that people point to in the Celestine Prophecy because everybody has had, you know, meaningful coincidences in their lives. And there's a way to amplify or maybe increase these moments once you realize that they're real. And by the way, synchronicity is the main proof that we're helped in life, that there is a spiritual dimension in our lives that is seeking to help us. There's a positive outflow. There are other things we have to do to get into the flow of that. But it's surprising just how amazing it is once we identify synchronicity as real because we have a new attitude about spirituality in the world. It's not just a matter of belief, right? We can have some proof finally.
Well, that's what's amazing. I mean, when everybody reads this part, because you do go into a lot of detail about how we can increase it, and I just love it. I'm going to read it again and again because I feel like it is proof as to that there's something else going on out there. You know, like it's not, because sometimes we feel really alone when we're going through things like, you know, whatever our religion is and whatever, you know, we can still feel alone. Like it's, you know, does anybody care? Is there a God? You know, you always ask that, is there God? What is there? Is there something? and then when something like that you can look at, you can say, yes, there's something, right?
Yeah. And, it goes on and on, these experiences that I talk about in the afterward, you're talking about the addition for this, what we're adding on for the new book, new edition of Celestine Prophecy is a fairly long treatment that I've written about first what time it is in the world and then human evolution, but also, what to do once we start to realize it's something more in life and how to enhance this spiritual tuning in that every step of the way can be proved to oneself to work. So, what I like to say is that life is not supposed to be this hard. We can't do life just with the ego, just with social conventions, just by trying to force our way in the world. We need to allow ourselves to be guided. And that's what happens when we tune into synchronicity.
I love that. Because even for what I'm going through right now, when I was reading, I was like, okay, you're right. I got to stop the resistance or whatever, that you're trying so hard against. It's like just sit back and relax and allow it to happen, right?
That's right. And, it's a kind of, it's empowered a bit by faith, by confidence that we can step into a flow in life where we can receive this help intuitively. So there are many experiences that's covered by the Celestine Prophecy and now my afterward that one can explore and prove to oneself that work. One is synchronicity, meaningful coincidences. They're there to help us if we take advantage of them. And another key experience is intuitive, what I call intuitive guidance. Humans have always operated intuitively. It's just a kind of knowing, well, I think I'll try this, I think I'll do this. It's kind of a knowing, a thought comes to us from sometimes out of the blue. Well, those are intuitions that it's coming from a higher spiritual intelligence that we have access to. That's part of us, but it's very in terms of increasing that. It's very karma oriented and it's love oriented. It's opening one's heart in a way that you can tune in to a higher intelligence. So that's another way that, looking at spiritual insight that really helps us.
You had said a line, and I actually wanted to go back and look for it, but now that you said this part, it's bringing it back up. And you said something like, the universe doesn't judge, or the universe doesn't, and I was like, it hit me because I was like, I was raised a Christian, okay, so it's like, we always think there's some kind of a judge, I always have been, I am getting, but you said something or it's neutral, or I don't know, the sentence was something like, universe is neutral, or it doesn't judge, and I was like, but I thought it did, but you're right, just to change that way of thinking, so you're not walking around thinking that it's a punishing universe, that you're being punished for action.
That's right. Yes, but it is structured. There is a karmic structure that I always have fun at lectures, and in this afterward I talked about it. There is a karmic structure, but it is a very simple one. And again, this is something that anyone can prove to themselves. I mean, it's been talked about for eons through the human potential movement literature, through the psychological, helping, therapeutic literature. Those who help others in the world, those who are kind of oriented to how can I be a synchronicity for another person that seems that I'm being intuitively crossing paths with and picking up. How can I give something back? And what happens is if you go get into that flow where you not just ask for clarity about a synchronicity, but from the people that cross your paths is what am I being intuitively given as a way to help them. In other words, something to say, something to give, something to bring up from our past to show how we've overcome a problem. All these are synchronicities that we can give other people. And when we are givers, you can prove to yourself that you start to attract more givers into your life who are there to give you a synchronicity. Now, the other side of that is true as well, and people have to understand this. If you're a taker, and takers are manipulators, they're trying to get something out of people, use them for their own benefit, sell them something they don't need, tell them something to build up one's ego. All of those things are taking and manipulating. And if you're one of those people, doesn't matter what it's about. Sure, you're doing it for their own good, but what happens is you can prove to yourself that you start to draw in others who treat you exactly that same way. Not as punishment, all right? We're getting past punishment. This is just a law of attraction. So you draw these people into your lives who manipulate you, and the lesson or the synchronicity of that moment is here's how it looks, here's how it feels when you do it to another person. That's the way. That's why the whole therapeutic literature for decades, we've always had to ask the question: how am I like the people that I criticize all the time? What is that dynamic? What do I have to learn about myself in order to stop that cycle of running into people who are various, who control in various ways, which we get to. But and I call this the third insight for people that haven't read the book or it's been a while. These are insights. These are clarity, steps in clarity that we get about the spiritual reality and our own self-adjustment that we need to make to optimize our path in the world, so that we can get on the I call it the good side of life. Be a giver. Your life will change. And the old adage, well, the die young, and one of the other things we say is, no good deed goes unpunished.
Right.
Those
hear that all the time.
That's just what we say when we draw something we think is negative from another person, but it's all not to be judgmental. It's to make us realize that we're not being givers, to come to that side of life.
Wow. I love this new edition so much, and I can't wait to get it in my hands because, when back in the 90s when I first read this book, I can't even tell you how many people I gave it to back then. So I just feel like this is it's such a perfect timing for it to come out with this new part, and it answers so many questions that people now are having after this. It's kind of like, and then what kind of, and so I enjoyed it so much, James. I can't wait to see what it does. I think it's going to be a whole new level for this book.
Well, it's fun for me to be involved in. I love it that I can get out and talk about what we know about spiritual reality. It's not just a matter of faith. You can prove to yourself that we get help in the world, and that's the side of the equation you want to be on. And I think that so many people are asking this question right now in the world because we're moving into a more honest, authentic place as a reaction to all the hidden corruption that we see, and the way, economics work in the world, the way interactions work. But it's all coming to light. So, I really am very, very positive about the future. I'm very, very positive about the next two generations that are asking these questions. How do I really live an inspired life? I don't have to get burned out and jaded. There is a way to stay inspired and to really feel like you're living your dream once you find it. It's all set up for us once we sort of know what the operating program is for life. And and it's pretty clear and something that, these are, again, not James Redfield's precepts for life. This is something I think we're coming to spiritually as a spiritual understanding already out there in the world.
Yes, and I'm going to have all of James's links listed underneath here, along with his website where you can go to see all of his books, and the Amazon link where you can go and you're going to be able to buy this book today. So I really want to thank you. It has been an honor to be able to talk to you, and I learned so much from it. It made my week.
Well, thanks for doing what you do out there. You really
thank you.
Are there speaking about important issues, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much, James. You have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
I am sure you enjoyed that conversation. Okay, he is beyond. A lot of that time I just sat there and listened because, I didn't even know what to say. I just let him talk. And he is graciously giving away a copy of the new edition tonight on my Instagram account. So go over there if you have not ever read the Celestine Prophecy and you want to read the new part or, whatever. It's a book that needs to be read. Okay. I think that it's so much packed into a book. He's so smart. But anyway, guys, thank you for listening, and I'll see you tomorrow.